And we are live. This is episode 62. Always amazing that we're that high up in the numbers these days. But episode 62 is Cut the Clutter, Proven Advice for Doing Business Better. And we have Garrett Delph joining us today. He is a serial entrepreneur. He has exited a couple of businesses and then sort of has shifted his focus now to bringing his expertise to being an operational partner to businesses that are struggling through things that he's gone through, and he helps them, as he says, not make the mistakes that he has made in his own experience. Garrett, so great to have you on the show. Would love to hear from you. What is on your mind?
Oh, well, first of all, Jeff, Eric, Elena, thank you for having me on your show. It's a real privilege to be here.
Absolutely.
Gosh, the last 3 months have been a pretty fascinating time for me, just in that AI era. About a year and a half ago, I never imagined I would see such such rapid transformation and acceleration of tech and IP to the market. It's like as soon as you get used to a new product or opportunity, it gets one-upped, at scale, crazy. So I'm really fascinated right now with personal sort of, private LLMs that you integrate with RAG and CAG, where you can take all of your corporate, on that note, personal knowledge, dump it into what, kind of used to be a typical database, but now you can have instant access to sort of all of your business and or personal categories and pull it up quickly and do meaningful things with it. It's really kind of blown my mind. So that's right here, sort of night and day right now. Pretty fascinating.
With that, Garrett, I'd like to ask you a question. So you said that you're helping businesses struggle as they scale, right?
Yeah.
Do you see them adopting these new tools, struggling with new tools, or some of each?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. My experience so far is I think we're all just trying to figure out the landscape. And so it's application to actually integrate into a business. For me, anyway, what I've seen is still very elusive. And so I'm using tried and true principles and techniques for classic business problem solving right now. But in the background, I am spending a ton of time just experimenting, and taking use cases that I'm very familiar with and sort of having, internal exercises. Like if I was facing this problem and I was going to solve it with the new AI economy, how would I do it?
Right.
Rather than experimenting on paying clients. I don't want to do that. So I hope that answers the question, Elena.
Well, so it's a really fascinating thing, and this is what you are talking about is a topic that Eric and I absolutely love, because our business is sort of built around this, although we've taken a marketing angle from it. Like, how do you very rapidly take information that exists in a company, like you said, put it into, I guess the equivalent of a project is what they call it in ChatGPT, but and essentially then create LLMs. We like to call them twins for obvious reasons. Create LLMs that now know all this stuff about the company and speak essentially very, very technically, at a very high level and really understand.
Yes.
What we have not looked into as much is the operational side of things. So what I'm fascinated is, given that you are focused on helping companies sort of with their operational practices, how are you using the AI tools to do that kind of work, or where do you see it going?
Yeah, well, some very nuanced use cases, and again, I want to make very clear, I'm not using experimentation as solutions to paying customers, right?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, right. So mostly still to date, the operational problems that I'm solving are just good old fashioned, removing clutter, reorganizing people, process, and performance, helping companies set up knowledge systems, Finding the gaps, finding the bottlenecks, finding the inefficiencies. The luxury I have, I feel like, is after those engagements, or even in the middle of those engagements, I get to go back home and I have new context on how I would have, or how I could in the future, apply, AI solutions that should accelerate the speed of these problems that historically we've done the old way.
Mm-hmm.
I really think by 100x.
You said you're talking about clutter. What do you mean? What do you mean when you say clutter? Because I could think of probably many different layers.
Sure.
Or is it yes?
There's definitely there's a corporate hoarding on the corporate level.
Pretty much.
Is it data? Is it process clutter? Is it data clutter? Is it everything? Is it, what are we talking?
Yeah, well, I would say on the clutter side, it's always data. And that's everything from like roadmaps to job descriptions to half-baked processes. Examples of these are, you have maybe if businesses even get around to building them, you have processes that were built several years ago, but they don't have a change management system in place, right? And so if they have iteration that's happening, it's never tracked and or adjusted. And so you sort of have this sort of, piles of legacy, which we all know, when that begins to happen, things really get slow. You lose dependability in your outcomes. You have variance, you have bloat, you have, waste, these sorts of things. And also the clutter thing is, usually with clutter, you're extremely disorganized. Mm-hmm. And so you have recruit teams, for example, going, where did you put the senior software engineering full stack job description? I'm like, oh, that's on my computer at home. Another person's like, where did you put the sales, the sales SOP for XY project? Oh, it's in Dropbox.
Yeah,
where's the other one? Oh yeah, that other one's in Google Drive. And so you have all of these, cross-functional silos, and they all manage their data differently, and they have different life cycles. Some of them don't have life cycles at all. And so stuff is just all over the place and becomes cluttered and legacy.
This reminds me, so I was in a company, and then we spun off another company. I think this is when this happened. And people were so impressed at the new company, how clean and easy it was to find everything. And I was like, just wait a couple weeks.
Right.
And it is really, really impressive how fast, particularly sort of the Windows Explorer or sort of typical file system can get really, really messy, really fast.
Really fast. I'm with you. It takes
Wild West, It's out,
So with that, I have a question for you, Garrett.
Yes.
Is that a matter of tech stack? Is that a matter of company culture? Is that a matter of not having resources? Is it leadership? Like, or just scaling so fast that nobody is paying attention?
Right.
Why happens?
It's a great question. I would say emphatically, it is rarely, if ever, a matter of tech or tools. Rarely, if ever. I think the short and sweet answer of it is, it's a matter of what do you value, And if you understand that the more you become disorganized in culture, by the way, I believe is operational. So the more you become disorganized in your people, your process, and ultimately the performance that determines outcomes, the more that stuff gets away from you. And so if you don't know that, there's generally a good chance that you don't value, you really don't value how important being organized internally is, and how that affects the happiness of your people, and how it affects, your efficiencies, and how it affects your effectiveness, how it affects your profit, how it affects the deliverables to your customers, how it affects your quality, how it affects your speed. All of these things stack up and get really cluttery. Dumb example, but I hope it makes the point. We just moved a bunch of stuff around in our garage, right? Speaking of, garages historically can get pretty cluttery. And so I had our daughter came down last night from LA, and I needed to, we were going to barbecue, and we ran out of propane. So I ran to the store, got the propane, walked into the garage, and I tripped because there was junk everywhere. And right. And I think, that's a metaphor for what's happening in businesses all the time. They're constantly tripping over themselves. They're tripping over all of their clutter. And it's no wonder that 9 in 10 businesses fail. And I think, as an operational guy, my hypothesis is it's generally less about product market fit. It's generally less about your ability to acquire customers. Generally, it's not about your ability to market well. I think the stuff that breaks businesses it happens in the engine room, Yeah.
So I have a question. Because, there's a classic, the classic, absent-minded professor or whatever who's like, we cleaned up your desk. Why would you do that? I knew where everything was. So there's a kind of, it is organized for me. And I think that particularly with respect to scaling, it's like, you might be organized for a one-person company. You might be organized for a 2-person company. Maybe you're even, maybe once you get to 3 or 4, but as you scale and as you rapidly get new people coming in to this, sort of cow path, organization. We come from Boston. I don't know if you're in this area, but
love Boston.
They talk about New York City has the roads are laid out as a grid, and Boston, the roads are laid out the way that the cows used to walk around. That's how they got there. And so there's just sort of how do you think about that transition? And it's kind of like there's a transition as you go from 5 to 10 and 10 to 15 and 15 to
there is.
whatever it is, 35 or whatever, in terms of the number of interrelationships and so forth increases exponentially. That's also true of your organization.
It is.
Yeah. So how do you think about that scaling in the organization piece?
I think about it in this way. Again, I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way. I'm not younger like I used to be, and so I watch when I go around town and go places, and I see older folks, a lot of them, walking around almost with this sort of extremely overweight, kind of crippled. They have limps. They're hunched over. They're breathy, right? They're not mobile, and I'm going to make the point here, this is the result of years and years of not taking care of yourself. Because if you look at people who are, 45, 50, 55, 60, and they're strong and they're healthy, that is also evidence of years of taking care of themselves. And I think business is the same way. It's it applies there. So for businesses that understand the importance of internal health, operational health, especially if they did it from scratch and they value it, they scale fantastically. For businesses that survive and or even succeed, but internally they're chaotic, they're outliers, number one, but number two, they just have supernatural product market fit and probably very, very thick margins. Probably don't have great employment churn records, but they're making it, right? And so I think the more you figure out how to be and stay healthy, the easier it is to scale. The more internally you are disorganized and chaotic for longer periods of time, the more difficult it is to scale. And I mean, it's more difficult, but it also takes longer, because there's a ton of internal transformation that has to take place to get it right. On that note, I've done both. And at the end of the day, it's systematic. So, if you have the right systems and tools that are plug and play into a business, and you have founders, CEOs, C-suite that are like, we're sick and tired of operating this way. culturally and operationally, we want to change. Totally doable.
Right.
Totally doable.
So
Garrett, quick question. Usually when you say we're sick and tired of this, we got to change, what tips them over? Is there a pattern, or is it always different?
It's money. It's always money, right?
It is. It's always money. Basically, they're like, we're going to die. Yeah. Typically.
So who's resistant? There's always somebody who's just like, I'm going to just plant my feet and make sure that anybody who's coming in and trying to change, I don't care if it's right or wrong, I want it to stay the same. Who is that person? Or is there one person? Is it just the personality? Is it a specific role? Who does it? I mean, obviously you could throw your clients under the bus, so I guess.
Right. I won't be naming any names. Well, I will tell you, rarely is it the founder or the CEO. Usually they're the ones that are, they can see, they experience the pain, they see the debt on the P&L, they see the inverse hockey stick. It's buy-in from leaders that typically are going to have to face the truth. And the typical thing with facing the truth is it reveals a lot of junk, right? It reveals a lot of stuff that leaders have been hiding. That is where things get really political and they get very personal. Because if you've been, if you've been an executive leader and you've had a run and you've been able to, have a decent lifetime value in your career with a company, but you have a lot of secrets, when your secrets get exposed, there's a lot of fear there. And so I've typically found that people that resist change, when the writing is on the wall that the ship is sinking, it's typically for those reasons. But if you have a company where they have a great culture, it's just chaotic, but they have the right people, they're very open because they want to win, and the culture's already established itself to want to be great. They just haven't figured out how.
So there's this phenomenon. I wonder if, Garrett, if you've seen this. I call it crisis leadership. This phenomenon that I've seen happen where essentially there are leaders who are promoted to the roles that they're in because they were good at dealing with crises. And they derive their sense of value from, I'm good in a crisis.
Right.
And so my theory about this is that those people actually, maybe inadvertently or subconsciously, are literally creating crises so they can solve them.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so it'd be interesting if you've come across that issue in your travels. I come across it all the time, but I'd be fascinated to hear your take.
Right. So that's a really fascinating perspective. I get it. I've seen a version of that, and the version is like this: the amount of thinking. And I've seen this primarily from COOs, who ultimately are the ones that need to drive the transformation in terms of getting buy-in and creating it. They prefer firefighting for a living over transformation because the amount of thinking it's going to take to break through to the other side is too much. So it's a version of what you're saying. I think it's less malicious. Right. But it's kind of like they just have this moment of trade-off. And where I feel bad for founders and CEOs that are like, if you can sell my COO, let's engage, is the organization is going to continue to suffer because you have high level leaders who just don't want to have to think. What did Steve Jobs say? The problem with most businesses and business leaders is they don't want to think deeply about what it takes to win. And I think that's really profound.
And I'll take it even a step further, as I think that there are many leaders who don't want things to change. They don't want there's this sort of who moved my cheese kind of thing. And that the other thing is there's this sort of view of, hey, these are really hard problems that we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And I don't have a solution for it. But if I just keep busy, nobody can hold me accountable because I'm doing stuff, right? Like, and I don't know if you run into that, but I've run into it, with clients where the busyness actually is the chaos is almost a defense mechanism of like, I don't know what to do. So what I'm going to do is keep myself busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that, busyness thing is so real because you have momentum, you're active, you're engaged, but we all know it does not equal progress, period.
I'm really curious that you said earlier that you don't see this as a founder or CEO phenomenon of resistance. I feel like there's a lot of, maybe it's a question of the size of the company or whatever, but I do think there's a phenomenon where the founder, I don't know if this is a term that's well used, but I've heard it called founder syndrome, right? The inability to let go, sort of, I'm the only one who can do it. It's a flavor of this crisis management, I think, Jeff, but yeah, I'm curious, like, if I wonder if it's that you're dealing with maybe slightly larger organizations and maybe they've already pushed past that hurdle.
Well, I have a hypothesis. It's a great thought, Eric. And yeah, so I typically engage with, businesses that are kind of, 10 million range and more. They have 100+ employees, and they've had some scale under their belt. And here's my hypothesis. And again, I've never actually asked. I only kind of watch and listen. But when you get to that size, you are, as a founder, you are hyper dependent on your people. And so you have to be very careful. And these are people that you probably need and likely like and trust.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you rock those boats and they leave, we know as founders what that could and would do to your business. That opens up a whole other bucket of chaos that could even be worse than the chaos you're currently dealing with just as a firefighting organization.
Right.
It's almost like it's the corporate version of this concept of the great filter. Do you know this concept in astronomy? Like there's
no, I don't.
The reason why we have never come across alien civilizations is the theory goes is because there are these filters that if you can't get past them, you never get off your planet, you never become multiplanetary species or whatever. It's kind of like it sounds a little bit like the corporate version of you won't see people of a certain type past a certain level because they've all been filtered out.
Well, so Garrett, we have gotten to the point of the show where we like to have one of our friendly LLMs ask a couple of questions. I don't know why, but today I asked Gemini. Gemini tends to be a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, cheeky with its questions. So we'll just go with that.
All right.
So one of the things, just so our listeners and viewers understand, is one of the things that Garrett talks about is that he is the Marie Kondo of business operations, right? And so I fed that into
this is going to be good.
Into Gemini. So the questions may have a little bit of a Marie Kondo flavor. The first one I'll ask you is, when you streamline a process, do you then have to thank the old clunky way for teaching you what not to do?
Ooh, I like that, actually. I like that. It reminds me of, what's that old adage? The bad person is the good person's mentor.
Yes.
Right. Where you witness and you observe the behavior of the bad character. You learn from them, and you try not to be like them. And I think that, that reminds me of that.
Yeah. And then let's see. When a process sparks no joy, there's your Marie Kondo. Do you thank it for its service before ceremoniously archiving it in the cloud?
Yes, actually. We have a cultural rhythm that we do. We have moments of silence. We have moments of silence as we retire the old and step into the new. And it's pretty funny. And I never disclose that that's going to be a moment that we experience, but it's really creates a lot of, some goodwill, a lot of really funny laughs.
Well, I'm going to ask you one last one. I usually only ask two, but I'm going to ask you one last one because I'm interested in your answers. What's the most sentimental attachment you've ever seen a leader have to a truly inefficient business practice?
Oh my gosh. I have to be honest. I don't think I've not experienced that.
Oh,
I've not experienced anybody being, distraught that they're losing an old love that was treated them so badly.
Okay, so keying off that a little bit, maybe I'm pretending I'm keying off it a little bit too much, but there's this concept, and I can't remember it. I don't think it was Daniel Kahneman, but it's one of these folks who's written about behavioral psychology. But there's a concept of corporate hygiene, right? Corporate hygiene, and I don't mean about operational. I don't mean it in terms of like operational hygiene, like what you're talking about, but it's more like the corporate hygiene of how do you make it so that you don't have a toxic,
culture,
culturally workplace. How do you make sure that people's mental health is being managed properly? How do you relate what you do and the sort of that kind of mental health, corporate hygiene in terms of like treating people right? Do you see there being a link, or is it kind of a separate issue?
It's a great question. I appreciate you asking that, Eric, because it is inextricably tied to what I do. It is part and parcel. It is, the other half to the same coin, because what great ops do to a business, like let's just go with the givens. It gives you scale, it gives you efficiency, it increases your gross profit, you have happier customers, you have longer lifetime values with your employees. We could go on and on. But what it emphatically does is it lowers stress in people. And when stress goes down, happiness goes up. Like you stop paying your people to stress out and quit. You stop paying your people to take all of their workload stress because the business failed to balance their workloads for them. And you stop paying them to take that home to their family. Like this is big, really, really, really big. I mean, you think about the weight and pressure if you overload a truck, what it does to the engine. That's what businesses do to their people because they don't care. And so part of actually, what I almost literally require is, your planning, your process starts with caring for your people, right? And so I always encourage, and I don't tell them you have to, but I always encourage, if you haven't cared for your people, for example, by giving them very clear razor sharp job descriptions so they know what they're going to do. I highly encourage that because it's only going to pay you back 50x. If you don't have a career path to, give some hope in the people that you're going to hire so they can grow, learn, be better, get paid more, be promoted, that's only going to pay you back 50x if you haven't done it already. So I have a list of 18 things we go through on this people column that are really part and parcel to that, Eric. And I think it's critical.
And I certainly think that's exactly right. I mean, I think in the end of it, I keep saying this I don't know how many times I've said this in a conversation in the last couple of weeks I feel like the business problems always turn out to be people problems, right? It's always, the processes aren't right or the culture needs to be fixed or whatever. It feels like that's always true. I think, so I'm very much in agreement with your take there.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I want to loop back to this earlier topic, or maybe the earliest topic in the podcast, which was this AI phenomenon. Like we kind of pulled you away, but with this fantastic conversation. But I want to pull us back for a second to that. There's a shift, and there's so much concern about people losing their jobs, and there's just a lot of change, as you mentioned before.
Yeah.
How is what you're doing helping companies prepare and adjust to this such rapid change, such sort of difficult to know what's coming next kind of environment right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, Eric, and I just want to make sure, especially for your listeners, that I'm razor sharp clear about this. All of my engagements right now, currently, I'm forthright about my experimentation with AI, because everybody's asking, how can we use AI to be better, faster, smarter, right? And my answer right now is I'm still experimenting. I'm personally not clear. The last thing I want to do is an operational partner that is hired to create sustainable transformation is take an alpha solution, integrate it, and find out 2 to 6 months from now it's legacy and we got to rebuild, right? Yep. So I'm very extremely cautious about that, Eric.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
at the speed it's moving, right? It could be from alpha to legacy in 2 months, and
that's right.
And on the organizational impact, it could be problematic, which is a very, very interesting point.
Spot on.
Jeff Howell are always talking about the fact that whenever we think of something clever to do with AI, like within 2 weeks, some company will add it on as a feature in Canva or in ChatGPT or whatever. It's absolutely true. Anyway, we've come to the end of the end segment, we'll call it, of our episode. And before we leave, we like to always go around and have everybody give one thing that they want to leave the audience with. I always joke that we like to haze the guests and give you no time to think about it. You get to go first. So Garrett, what is one thing to leave the audience with?
I would share this, and again, this is for business leaders and organizations that are interested in transformation. You cannot manage what you cannot measure.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Well, so before Garrett, I jump in with my one thing. What is the best place for people to reach you if they want to connect with you or work with you or whatever?
Oh, thank you, Jeff. I'm on LinkedIn, so my handle is Garrett Delph, and the website is clarity-ops.co. If you put in .com, you won't reach me. I think that costs like $50,000 or something.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Let me see if I can get this up here on the screen for folks. Did I get it right?
That's it.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
So my one thing is I'm going to go with the point that we were sort of making towards the end there, which is that so much of operational business operations is about the people, and that the clutter, and that seems to be a message I feel like I've heard throughout your comments, is it's the humans that create the clutter, and it's not the tech. The tech is just a tool, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's the humans, and so making sure to focus on the human side, I think is really important. And I will pass it to Elena.
Thank you. And I would say that the point that I took away is don't rush to chase the newest technology and what's hot, but rather stick to what's the issue in hand, how you're going to solve it, how you're going to measure it, and then find the tech solutions that are fit to the purpose, AI included.
Yeah, it's a great thought.
So I actually was, we've done the 62 episodes, and I actually was like thinking ahead this time. I heard you say something early on, and I'm like, I'm writing that down, and I'm going to use it as my one thing. So success being tied to the operational health being a value of the company. That I thought was a really interesting point. Like that needs, like operational health isn't just something you do, it's something you are, or some part of the identity of your company. And I think that's a really interesting concept. I think it's true on top of it being interesting. Well, Garrett, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. It always flies by. It's always amazing how quickly half an hour goes. But thank you so much for joining us. Fantastic to have you.
Oh yeah, you guys, this has been great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.